Welcome dreams sleepy Asmer to a quiet place of rest, where the night is gentle, the waves are soft, and every word guides you deeper into comfort. Tonight, we bring you a soothing tale, a story of calm oceans, glowing lanterns, and a lighthouse keeper whose nights are filled with peace, kindness, and a quiet magic carried by the sea breeze. So settle in, take a slow breath, and allow your mind to drift. As we begin, when the lighthouse light went out, on a silent coastal island, far from crowded harbors, far from noise, far from anything that could disturb a night's calm, there stood an old stone lighthouse. It had watched over the ocean for more than 100 years. It had survived storms, welcomed lost sailors, and comforted travelers with its warm golden beam. But tonight, for the first time in decades, the light at the top of the lighthouse flickered, and then gently faded out. Only one man noticed it, the lighthouse keeper. And this night, his journey to restore the light would take him through dreams, memories, mysterious sea creatures, and the softest corners of the sleeping world. Chapter 1, The Island of Quiet Evenings. Far out in the ocean, wrapped by deep blue waters and gentle fog, Island Lumna rested like a sleepy giant. Nothing hurried here. Days moved like drifting clouds, and nights felt like warm blankets spread across the sky. On this island lived Elias Marin, the lighthouse keeper. Elias wasn't young anymore. His beard had streaks of cloud white, and his hands were marked by years of pulling ropes, polishing lenses, and lighting lanterns. But his eyes, those soft, sea-colored eyes, held the same calm glow as the lighthouse itself. Every evening, after the sun sank behind the horizon, Elias would climb the spiral staircase of the lighthouse, step by slow step, breath by gentle breath. He would reach the top, open the tall glass chamber, and check everything with the same familiar care. The great crystal lens, the brass mechanisms, the fuel levels, and the huge oil lamp that cast the warm beam across the sea. Elias whispering softly to himself had become a habit. Tonight again, we shine so sailors may rest easy. And the lighthouse always answered with a soft hum, as though it recognized the voice of the man who kept it alive. Tonight, though, things felt different. The ocean was unusually still. The wind carried a hint of something sweet, something like old memories. And far under the water, as if from another world, something sparkled. Elias paused on the walkway just below the lantern room. He murmured. Feels like the sea is thinking tonight. He chuckled softly and opened the heavy door to the lamp chamber, only to find darkness. The lamp wasn't burning. The wick was still whole. There was plenty of fuel. The glass was clean. Nothing seemed wrong. Yet the flame was gone, not blown out, not extinguished by wind. Just gone, as if it had walked away. Elias took a slow breath, letting the cool night air fill his lungs. He wasn't one to worry quickly. The sea had taught him patience long ago. "All right," he whispered. "Let's see where you've wandered off to, little light." And so began his gentle night journey. Chapter 2, The Night Compass. Elias went back down the winding stairs, taking the long, slow steps that echoed softly off the stone walls. At the bottom, he lit a small lantern from his old wooden table. This lantern was special, a family keepsake. It glowed not yellow or orange like normal lanterns, but silver like moonlight. The moment he lit it, the tiny flame inside stretched, shimmered, and then settled into a bright, steady glow. Lines of faint symbols appeared on the glass, a swirling map of the island and the sea around it. He tapped the lantern gently. "Come on, little compass. Where did our lighthouse flame run off to?" The silver flame tilted itself, almost like a nod. Then it slowly leaned toward the open door, pointing to the shoreline path. Elias nodded. "All right then, to the sea." He wrapped a warm shawl around his shoulders, picked up a small pouch with tools, a spare wick, a small bottle of enchanted oil, a flint, and stepped outside. The air was cool but comfortable. The ocean whispered softly against the rocks. The night sky stretched like a velvet curtain filled with calm, silver stars. Elias felt no fear, only curiosity. Only the gentle excitement of a night that promised stories. He followed the lantern's guidance down the winding path toward the beach. The grass rustled softly as he walked past. Fireflies drifted lazily around him like floating embers, lighting his steps. Halfway down the path, a tiny voice whispered, "You're late, keeper." Elias didn't jump. He simply looked down. Sitting on a smooth stone was a little creature no bigger than a teacup. A sea flicker. Sea flickers were tiny ocean spirits shaped like round, glowing drops of water. Their bodies shimmered like blue pearls, and they spoke in voices softer than ripples. This one had bright, curious eyes. "Am I late?" Elias asked gently. The flicker nodded dramatically. "MMHMM, the sea has been waiting." "Well," Elias sighed playfully, "then lead the way." The flicker hopped off the rock, rolled down the sand like a little bouncing bubble, and stopped near the waterline. Elias followed. The waves glowed faintly where they touched the shore, as if welcoming him. Chapter 3: The Ocean Opens Its Memories. The sea flicker dipped itself halfway into the ocean and hummed. The water around it began to respond, light pulsing outward, spreading like a soft heartbeat across the waves. Elias knelt beside the creature. "What's troubling the sea tonight?" The flicker blinked up at him. "Something has stirred in the deep quiet." The deep quiet. The stillest part of the ocean, far below the surface. Where sunlight never reached, and only the gentlest ancient beings lived. "Is that where my flame has gone?" Elias asked. The flicker nodded. It drifted downward, quietly, peacefully, like it wanted to see something. Elias sighed softly, rubbing his beard. "Well, the lighthouse is not built for wandering flames." The flicker giggled in a way that sounded like tiny bubbles. "Even lights need a little adventure sometimes." Elias looked out at the ocean, thoughtful. "How deep did it go?" The flicker pointed downward. "Very deep, but not dangerously so. The sea wants you to follow." Elias stood up slowly, steadying himself with a deep breath. He wasn't young anymore. But nights like this made him feel like he could walk anywhere, even into the ocean's dreams. "Then I will go," he said gently, "but I'll need a boat." The flicker twirled happily. "It's already waiting." Chapter 4: The Moonlit Boat. To the right of the beach, where the sand met a cluster of smooth boulders, there rested a small wooden boat. Elias blinked in surprise. He hadn't seen that boat in years. It belonged to his father, hand-carved, beautifully polished, and decorated with little star symbols on the sides. Elias had used it in his youth to explore the coastline, until the sea returned it one stormy night, battered by waves. He thought it was long gone. But tonight, it looked perfect. Whole, polished, warm. As if it had been waiting for him. Elias touched the wood. It felt alive, like the boat remembered him. "You fixed it," he whispered to the ocean. The sea flicker bobbed proudly. The sea doesn't forget its friends. Elias pushed the boat gently into the glowing waves. It floated effortlessly, rocking softly as though inviting him aboard. He stepped in, lantern in hand. The flicker hopped onto the bow, acting like a tiny captain. The moment Elias sat down, the boat began to drift forward, guided not by oars, but by the soft pull of the ocean itself. The shoreline drifted away. The lighthouse beam remained dark behind him, but the stars ahead shone bright, painting a silver path on the water. Elias exhaled slowly. A journey into the deep quiet. A journey to find a wandering flame. A gentle night's adventure had truly begun. Chapter 5: Voices Beneath the Waves. The boat traveled deeper into the calm sea, moving so smoothly that Elias barely felt the water beneath him. The silver lantern shone in steady rhythm, its glow reflecting off the waves like melted moonlight. As the boat reached the darker waters, Elias began to hear faint sounds, soft humming, like ancient lullabies sung by the ocean. The sea flicker whispered, "The deep ones are waking." Elias nodded. They do not wake without reason. He leaned over the edge of the boat, peering down into the water. For a moment, it looked pitch black, but slowly, shapes began to appear. Long trails of glowing kelp. Groups of gentle jellyfish drifting like floating dreams. And small, mysterious creatures with bell-shaped bodies like lanterns. Every one of them glowed softly. The ocean was alive with light. Yet the lighthouse flame was missing. "Do you think," Elias asked softly, "that the flame was stolen?" The flicker shook its tiny head. "No one steals in the deep quiet, only seeks." Elias frowned gently. Then what was it seeking? Before the flicker could answer, a slow, deep voice echoed up from beneath the waves. "Something, Forgotten." Elias stiffened slightly. He recognized that voice. It belonged to Marinal, the old-tide spirit. A guardian who slept at the bottom of the sea and rose only when the balance of light and water shifted. "Marinal," Elias called softly, respectful. "Old friend, what has awakened you?" The water ahead rose in a smooth, towering shape. A moment later, the surface broke open, revealing a giant figure made of shimmering currents and moonlit foam. Its eyes glowed like twin pearls. "Keeper," the spirit rumbled, "your flame journeys where old memories rest." Elias pressed a hand to his chest. "Memories?" His. "Why would my lighthouse flame seek memories?" he asked. Marinal tilted its immense head. "Because something once lost calls to it." Elias was silent. The sea was silent. Even the gentle wind paused. Finally, he whispered, "What do I need to do?" Marinal lifted one watery hand, and the boat drifted closer. "Follow the flame," the spirit murmured, "and you will find not only your light, but something your heart has long forgotten." The ocean slowly opened beneath the boat. A wide, glowing path leading downward. The deep quiet was calling. Elias tightened his grip on the lantern. "Then take me there." The boat gently descended into the water. Not sinking, but floating downward like a falling feather. As the silver flame guided the way. The journey to the heart of the ocean, and the reason for the missing lighthouse flame, had only just begun. Chapter 6, Descent into the Deep Quiet. The boat drifted downward, slipping through layers of ocean as easily as passing through veils of soft, misty air. The water around Elias shimmered with silver blue light, as if the sea itself wanted to guide him gently into its quiet heart. Above him, the moon grew distant. The sky dimmed. The world transformed. Small lights like drifting stars floated around the boat. Some were living creatures, others were ancient ocean embers, remnants of storms and forgotten nights. The sea flicker stood on the bow, glowing brighter than before, humming a soft tune that echoed beautifully in the deep. Elias closed his eyes for a moment, letting the calm soak into his bones. The descent felt strangely peaceful, almost like falling into a dream you once knew, but could never quite remember. When he opened his eyes again, the water had become clear, so clear it looked like air, and up ahead something glowed. A floating ring of light. A gateway. The deep quiet. Elias whispered, "I remember this place." The flicker looked back at him. "You've been here before." Elias' eyebrows lifted. "I have." The flicker nodded, voice soft. "When you were very young, but humans forget what the sea shows them too early." The boat passed through the glowing ring, and silence wrapped around them like warm velvet. Chapter 7, The City of Whispering Currents. The deep quiet was unlike any place Elias had ever visited consciously. It was vast, wider than any cave, deeper than any valley, brighter than any night sky. Giant archways made of coral rose in smooth, elegant curves. The seabed glowed with soft blue lines like pathways, and floating above them, dozens of luminous figures drifted like lanterns suspended in space. Not fish, not spirits, not memories. Something in between. They whispered as Elia's boat passed. Keeper returns. Long time. He searches for the wandering flame. Memory wakes. Elias felt a calm shiver run through him. He lowered his lantern. The silver flame stretched again, this time pointing toward a cluster of ancient coral structures. One of them looked like an underwater shrine built from curved shells and soft glowing stones. The sea flicker hopped onto Elia's shoulder for comfort. That is the chamber of first light, it said quietly, where lost things come to rest. Elias swallowed softly. And my flame is there. The flicker nodded. But you may find more than just the flame. Elias steered the boat closer. The shrine glowed brighter as he approached, like it recognized him. Chapter 8, The Memory Within the Shrine. Elias stepped onto the glowing seabed. Strangely, he could breathe here. The air was soft like mist. The water touched him without wetting him. Everything felt weightless. The sea flicker bounced along beside him. In the center of the shrine was a stone pedestal, and on it, burning steadily, was the missing lighthouse flame. It flickered brightly, alive, warm, and calm, almost happy. Elias smiled softly. There you are. But before he could reach toward it, the flame shimmered and expanded. In a sudden burst of gentle light, the shrine filled with swirling shapes. Not threatening. Soft, warm, like memories suddenly waking up. Elias froze. He saw a younger version of himself. A small boy sitting by the sea, holding a tiny toy boat. Beside him sat a woman with long, wind-tangled hair tied with a blue ribbon. His mother. Elias' breath caught. He hadn't seen this memory since he was a child. His mother's voice echoed gently across the shrine. Do you hear it, Eli? The sea speaks to those who listen softly. Young Elias nodded in the vision, smiling. And one day, she continued, you'll guide others with a light of your own, a gentle one, a patient one. The memory shimmered, glowed, and dissolved into the surrounding water. Elias stood completely still. The sea flicker looked at him with wide, kind eyes. That is why your flame came here, it whispered. It carried a memory you had forgotten, a memory that belonged to your heart. Elias felt warmth spreading through his chest. He softly wiped the corner of his eye. I had forgotten her voice, he whispered. Her blessing. The flicker gently lowered its head. The sea remembered for you. Elias looked at the flame on the pedestal. So the flame came here to give me this memory. The flicker shook its head. No, the memory called the flame. Elias paused. That made even more sense. Sometimes the heart calls out, even when the mind does not hear it. Chapter 9, The Keeper's Oath. The flame flickered, stretching toward Elias like a greeting. He slowly reached out his hand. The flame didn't burn. Instead, it curled around his fingers softly, like a warm ribbon, then sank gently into his lantern, settling into place as if returning home. The silver lantern glowed brighter than it had in years. The sea flicker bowed its tiny head. The flame has returned, but before you go, the deep quiet has one more gift. Elias frowned softly. A gift? The seabed beneath him glowed brighter. A soft vibration hummed through the shrine. From the coral structures around him, currents gathered, swirling softly, combining into a single glowing shape. A small orb drifted forward, resting in front of Elias. Inside it were symbols he recognized. Ancient lighthouse marks. The orb spoke in a voice like distant waves. Keeper, your heart has remained gentle through many storms. Take this memory light and let your nights remain peaceful, no matter how the tides change. Elias held the orb close. It merged into his chest, like warm light entering water. A calmness washed through him. a deep, steady peace he had not felt in decades. He closed his eyes, exhaled slowly. When he opened them, the shrine had dimmed. The deep quiet was returning to sleep. The sea flicker whispered, "It's time to go back to your lighthouse." Elias nodded. Yes, the night needs its light again. Chapter 10, Rising Toward the Moon. Elias returned to the boat, lantern glowing strong. The moment he stepped in, the ocean currents lifted the boat upward, carrying him gently back through the glowing layers of the deep quiet. The tiny orb's warmth still pulsed inside him. He felt younger, lighter, more complete. The sea flicker curled up near his feet, watching him with soft admiration. "You're quieter now," it whispered. Elias chuckled, "Maybe because I've remembered something important." The boat rose through the dark blue water, into lighter water, past drifting jellyfish, past glowing trails, until finally, the surface shimmered above them like a silver sky. They broke through. The ocean breeze kissed Elia's face. The stars twinkled gently overhead. The night was calm, waiting. And far on the shoreline, the tall silhouette of the lighthouse stood in silence. Elias steered the boat toward it. As he reached the shore, the sea flicker hopped off and rolled through the wet sand playfully. "Will you come again?" it asked. Elias smiled warmly. "When the sea calls." The flicker bowed dramatically. "Then we'll be waiting." With a soft pop of light, it dove back into the water and vanished. Elias stood for a moment, breathing in the peaceful night. Then he walked up the winding path toward the lighthouse. Chapter 11, Rekindling the Lighthouse Light. Inside the lighthouse, the spiral staircase felt different, lighter, filled with soft echoes of the memory he had regained. Step by step, he climbed, the silver lantern lighting his way. At the top, the large empty lamp chamber waited quietly. Elias opened the glass, held his lantern up. The flame inside shimmered brightly, then leaped gently from the lantern into the lighthouse lamp, settling into the wick like it had always belonged there. A soft hum filled the chamber. Then, FWOM. A warm, golden beam burst forth, filling the night sky with gentle brilliance. The lighthouse was alive again. Elias stepped back, letting the glow wash over him. He felt his mother's voice inside the wind, soft, faint, but undeniably there. "Guide them with a gentle light, Eli." He touched the railing, steadying himself with a smile. "I always will," he whispered. The beam swept across the ocean. And somewhere deep below, the ancient spirit stirred with contentment. The balance had returned. Chapter 12, A Quiet Homecoming. Elias descended the stairs slowly, not out of tiredness, but to savor the calm. Back in his small lighthouse cottage, he poured warm tea, wrapped a soft blanket around his shoulders, and sat by the open window. The golden beam above rotated in slow, soothing arcs. The waves shimmered. The night breathed. And for the first time in many years, Elia's heart felt completely quiet. He whispered softly into the night, "Thank you. For the memory. For the journey. For the light." The sea responded with a gentle wave brushing against the shore. Elias smiled, finished his tea, and let his eyes slowly close. The peaceful night carried him into soft, dreamless sleep. As the lighthouse beam sweeps gently across the sea, the night grows quieter, softer, calmer. Elias rests. The ocean rests. And now you may rest too. Feel the calm wash over you, like warm waves on a quiet shore. And let your heart settle into deep, peaceful sleep. Good night. Sweet dreams. And may your light always find its way home.